Sunday, but you do have that because it's a holiday. Then your money you get paid is small wages and not enough. That's when unions start. Some people are afraid to get involved because it felt it was a bad thing. But what it was, it forced the higher ups to pay the workers for benefits, things like if you want to take a vacation, like a holiday, if you ever had that PTO time, this is personal time out off where you can go on a vacation if you want. If you have I had jobs where I had disability, short-term disability. I had life insurance, health insurance. If I got sick, I can go to the doctor. Back in the day, people didn't have that. You got hurt, then they get fired because you got hurt. Now you got hurt in a job, you can sue your employer because it's because you got hurt while working. Here we go. We got a comment here from my man KL. Shout out to KL. He says this. Yeah, I understand that's tough business. Doing that and you're losing your life to the extreme of stream. It's a sport. Yeah. This is my man Curtis L. Jr. Curtis has heard the news, and I so like to apologize for what happened to her because she had a bright future till it wasn't taken for her. And it's just awful. And to her family, I'm sorry. Well, brothers, you owe no apologies. This is not on you. Don't. Here's the thing: is we can say don't say sorry. We can say condolences to the family, but don't apologize. There's nothing that you did. But also if people say like the fans want to see, but here's the thing is the fans, we are the ones who paying the tickets. And yes, we like to see great athletes, but at the same time, there's us who really want you to take care of yourself, be healthy. And many of us don't know what y'all go through as a competitor. We don't know all the workouts, the training, the diets, like even like everything that's involved in. We don't know. That's why I have these podcasts, these live streams. I do interviews, and I want people to come in, educate themselves. Here, this is some article that I found while I was searching a little something, and it's from a guy that I admire, and it's tempting not to do it, and I tempt not to do it, but I can't help myself, and that is from one Mister, Jake Wood. Yo, Jake, I want that money. I want that gun. So I'm sorry, guys, I can't help it. So Jake Wood wants changes to judging following death of Elena Havani Kosnova. I think that's Kosnova. I think that's the name. That's the full name. He says the Olympia owner was extremely disheartened when the death of women's bodybuilding competitor Elena, just go skip that whole name and chop it up. Elena Havani wants there to be less of emphasis placed on conditioning. And this was August of 2021. And here's Jake. He said, okay, so after Jake Wood brought out the Olympia last year, he promised there be lots of changes to the organization. Well, with the recent death of women's bodybuilding competitor Elena Avani, he's now trying to change competitors how competitors are judged to make it safer a sport. And also, conditioning is a critical part of success in bodybuilding and other categories that compete on stage. The term is used to describe the level of leanness, striations in the muscles, and vascularity. The process requires strenuous manipulation of various physiological factors such as body fat, fluid, electrolytes, and glycogen. Glycogen. I mispronounced that. It can be very taxing on the body. Well, more details came out regarding what happened before Alina passed away. Constant preparation may have been too much on her. So details of it says, according to our sources, the Czech-born competitor fainted backstage as she was getting her last tan before posing on stage. Staff helped her after she collapsed and apparently tried to get back on her feet but could not. And then this was out of consciousness and before becoming unresponsive. So you see, and so it said the ambulance took between 45 to 60 minutes to arrive. It was not confirmed if she made it to the hospital before dying shortly after leaving competition. And it says the 46-year-old, she was 46 at the time, competitor was going up against women much younger, and the strain of having to be stage ready condition may have been too much for her. Apparently, her COVID prior last year's Olympia and also suffered from cancer, according to her sources. So those could be different factors, but still, just saying she's 46 and using her age, that's still, saying that. So here you go. Jake Wood wants changes to judging criteria for athlete safety. Jake Wood apparently took to social media where he expressed his grief and desire to change things in order to hopefully prevent occurrences like this in the future. It's important to note that the following comment is not found on any of the social media accounts. However, it was taken from the page. This is bodybuilding on Instagram, and it goes like this: it says, "I deeply shaken by the loss, Alina. I am not one for empty words. Instead of making posts, I am making changes. I had a productive meeting with Jim and Tyler Manion this morning, and we're all sickened by this turn of events. We agree that conditioning is overemphasized in judging criteria, and something must be done. I will push for change in all divisions. Coaches, athletes play their part too. I would not say any more here as it may counterproductive. Criticize me in my organizations you may. I don't care. What I do care about is getting greater athlete safety. And with that, I said, with that, I said, I will admit that we've been slow to post a memorial. I am just dumbfounded by the meaning of this and determined to prevent it in the future. I had utmost respect for Elena Havanti. I I want her passing to have meaning that lasts. And the problem is, and this is from Jake Wood, because yeah, we will read it. But here's a problem with that, Jake. As you know, I'm a fan of you. I respect what you've done. You're the man who stepped up and saved bodybuilding as other organizations were and and stuff pushing it out of the do for the sport. But here's the problem, Jake. Things are not going to change unless people want them to change. The thing is, you have to really, like you did talk to Jim Mannion. He's still young, and Jim Mannion, he their war coffers, or as they say, to start his wealth. This is really something that needs to be. It has to be done from the ground up. It has to be done by the athletes have to demand this. I know you're the man who runs the Olympics, you own your company, Rising Phoenix. I mean the Wings of Strength, Rising Phoenix. But you're just one man, and still the problem is that you, like any other who gets involved in sport, you eventually become engulfed in it. This sport can easily, all the circumstances, especially when it comes to money and politics. Sometimes even good men with good intentions will change. It's not much you can say about it. It's just like I was saying, not everybody's going to stay the same person they started off as. But I would say I do respect Jake Wood for who he is, what he has done for the sport, what he represents in the whole of bodybuilding. He's the guy who, like I said again, he came in when women's bodybuilding was going through hardships, when promoters were dropping him from their shows, when the IV decided to drop it from the Olympia. That's been, a little over 5 years ago, just about 5 years ago. And now it's back. But then you look at the other divisions also, like, like divisions like women's body, like you took it, women's physique, figure, um, wellness, fitness. Those women, fitness is probably one of the toughest because you do a lot more physical stuff compared to the other divisions. Bikini and even um, wellness. And then you have the new fit model division. With that one, that's a possibility because you got to think about it. After a while, those athletes want to come conditioning too. You got to. There's going to be, I think, there's going to be cases of women, especially young women, because this is a young women's division. You might see some women over 40 or 50 try to get into it, but this is truthfully a young women's division. This is from girls from their teens to maybe to their mid 20s divisions. Anything past 30, it's a stretch. I think I've even seen some shows where they even have women 40 to 60 plus. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. Most women over 50, it's hard to maintain that tight, tight, taut, beach body look, especially when you hit 50, and especially if you had kids. Your body changes after you have children. You put on a little more weight. Even if you do still, you type of women that still works out to keep in shape, but your body do changes because your metabolism changes. It's not like when you're like in your 20s. I remember when I was young, I could eat anything and then boom, boom, I still gain weight, but still I can burn it off because I had high metabolism. I was maybe taxing metabolism, but the thing is, there should be more set guidelines. And the judging, the judges, I mean, I talked to lady tell me that the judges tell me, we need this, we need that, we need to be more full of this. We want more connection to your hamstrings. You want this. You need to be a little bit more drier when you're on stage. And that's a danger because to get more drier, you have to, you know, really just deny your body fluids. I've heard ladies say they chew chewing gum because because they can't drink water before a show, and it's so hazard to your health. And you know what? You should value your body as much as you value anything in life. You only have one body. Once this body's gone, unless you believe in reincarnation, something like that, you know, it's just tough. It's just once this body's gone, it's in the ground. It's going to turn to dirt. Ash to ashes, dust to dust. How to go in the Bible, an old saying. You know, really, I think we need to have more education. I said again, there was a seminar this past weekend. My one of my favorite ladies, Andrea Shaw, was there. I saw some pictures and clips. My show sent to me, and that should also happen. Like also Schwarzenegger Classic, that's the biggest expo around. They have the little get together, little conference with the athletes. Why not do that? Like something for the Olympia, because the Olympia has a little thing together. Have something where um you get to get. It's how you do it. You get the top judges, the top promoters. You get JM Mannion, you get Tyler, and you get the top competitors. Like you have people like representing their divisions. Like you have Andrea Shaw there. She doesn't compete. You should have Sid Gillen there, Missy Trescott, Chris Sebo, Samson Dua, Derek Lungford, whoever's top in bikini, wellness, men's classic, men's physique, 212, those top competitors should be there. And we should have a kind of a town hall meeting in a way where just like talk about solutions. This needs to be done. But the fact is, no one wants to do that. See, there's no money in it because with some of these seminars, people pay to go see these things. But this is something you have to pay. This is something you should put together. You can do a teleconference. If you can't make it, hey, especially if it's these promoters or anything like that, they can just do a teleconference thing. Set it up like that. Have it in a meeting hall. Have a screen set up. If JM can't make it, he can talk to you by teleconference, like doing this. That's how I do my interviews and do this podcast. Do a live stream like Zoom, or I use StreamYard and several others. That's what you need to do. The technology is there. Just got to work on it. Like you can do, if you can do pay-per-views for competitions, you can do the same for this. It's just You know, what what as a competitor, what do you want from your organization? Be it PCA, be it OCB, be it NABA, be it WBFF, be it NBC and IV. What do you want for them? They should be, as truthfully, I keep saying it, y'all are the product. You're the reason people come to these shows. You're the reasons that people buy the tickets. They come there to support family and friends, or even also people might want to look for the next big athlete and want to sponsor them. You know, and these athletes come there, they pay their money, they pay their tithes to compete in these shows, or the ones just want to get to the Olympia. Why isn't NPCIB doing more? It's not like they don't. It's not like they can't afford it. Some of these companies they file for certain benefits as they call themselves charities almost. They can file, you can file like, some of the richest families file off of Pell Grants and also grants from the government. You know, I remember talking with Lisa Sagan this weekend when she in Australia. The NABA has applied for some kind of sports assistance, and that helps them out because because that brings in money for the organizations that can help out competitors and also help out athletes. That's what they're doing. Can we do it in the US? Possibly. But the problem is with bodybuilding, it's not as popular and mainstream. And this thing's also, we keep talking about this before, the athletes need to really put themselves out there. Go to some of these platforms. When they get asked the tough questions, don't be afraid. Don't dodge. That's the thing is when you try either to lie or to or try to change the subject of something, you're hiding something. Like even though right now most of these news platforms are very prejudiced about certain things, but go to some of these independent podcasters and platforms who are getting a lot of attention. Everybody's trying to stay away from mainstream news, but still mainstream news gets watched. Cable news gets watched. The everyday person still watch ESPNs and CNNs and the Fox News and all that. You know, still reach out to these and really tackle the tough subjects. The thing, if you talk about the things that's tough to talk about, it will get people's interest. Because they're saying like, I thought you want to talk about this. I thought you were kind of because it's so streamed. So yeah. It's so like. But that's what you need to do. You get to take the chance and reach out and talk to the people. Get them to understand what your sport's about. Educate those people who are curious about bodybuilding, who are wondering, what's involved in it, what's it about, why there's so much. Because one thing is, a lot of the news has often used, the shit like talking about steroids. But you know what? That's not the one thing that kills athletes. That's not. Sometimes, like I said again, it's they're taking certain diuretics like you're supposed to. Like the whole thing with like I said again, Elaine was with Sarah Starnes, and everybody was on Sarah Starnes' case. They're calling him the death dealer. There's posting stuff, that he's responsible for his woman's death. But sometimes we athletes we do, they'll go outside the protocols. They because they feel like they want to get a step up. So they do things to, just kind of break the so they can get over a little bit to try to reach that next level. And the thing is, when you take those risks, when you risk your health and life, just because you see you can win a trophy, award, or get to Olympia, it's not a good thing. You should really think about the outcomes of what you do, the deeds you do. And the people out there, the hires up, the judges, the promoters, the coaches, the trainers, y'all need to sit down and talk about this. Now, for now, we're going to have a lot of people posting, rest in peace to her, yada yada yada, condolences. But then, in a couple weeks down the road, when the season starts really revving up and starting picking up, then all of a sudden, everybody's going to forget about it. It's just going to be a footnote in the sport. But what can you do? Like I said again, I'm just one person, and I just got a small platform, and I don't know what I can do. Like I said, I'm outside. I'm a fan. Yes, I'm the guys. When the guys go to shows, if I do go to the show, we like to see the ripped, conditioned competitors. You know, but we don't want you to risk your life and your health for chasing after a trophy or chasing after Olympic qualification or chasing after your pro qualification. We don't want you to do that. We want you to think about the choices you make when you get involved in this sport. The reason why you did it, because you maybe, like some cases, like some ladies I talked to, you know, I get it because dealing with stuff in their life and trying to get in better shape and better health. That's one reason why some ladies got into it. Others because they were athletes and they love competition, love competing. They miss that the feel of being on the stage, be it if it's just maybe on a football field, a track field, you know, playing any kind of sport. And this is a sport that kind of called to them because it was something different, something out of their norm. And this is why, like I said, I hope I usually have some guests here, but I know I'm gonna say this. I know some of y'all you don't want to get to this too much, don't want to talk about too much. I respect that, I understand that. But here again, I'm gonna say it again. This is your sport, and you should be really want to talk about these things. You know, like I said, I'm a small, YouTuber. I have a few thousand people that follow me, and I appreciate those people. But it's going to be up to those people who have their hands in the sport, who understand the aspects of sport, that need to say something. No one's going to really listen to me, and they're going to make comments and like that and yeah, yeah. But if someone who's really involved in the sport, who really has a name, who really has some rank, say something, maybe, but it has to take more than just one person. It has to take a group. You get more when you have a force behind you than just standing alone. So got a comment here. Give me a second, folks. My computer's acting a little slow today. Yeah. Also, this one man KL, he says, it is an opportunity. Yeah, he says, and also he said this, says a privilege to be on your show. Yeah, shout out, brother. So we're hoping he come on here because me and him do interviews and talk to ladies because that's like I'm a fan of female bodybuilding just as much as KL. He's more the fan of women muscle. I'm a fan of women muscle, also a fan of the sport. And that thing is, it's just the fans. I know you want to do prove. This is about bodybuilding, about proving something for yourself, not to us. And that's when I hear people say, "Whereas the fans want." Well, it's not what we want. We come to the shows. Yes, we're the ones who pay the tickets, but it's not up to what we want. It's up to what you, the athlete, wants. Where you want to go with your life, any career in this sport, how you want to live. We talked about it one time. Some ladies, it's tough when they get bodybuilding because of the stream of it. Because I think I saw an interview a while back, and one lady talked about how the choices she made because she could have enjoyed her life, but bodybuilding took up so much of it. The training, the regiment. Some ladies even miss out on having children. So guys, you have to think a guy can have a kid anytime he's ready. But in some cases, sometimes some guys, miss out on that too. You know, it's the risk of it. I think it's might be a little more dangerous for women because, like I said again, women have a higher BMI than men, meaning they carry more fat, they carry more body weight compared to men. Men, we are some men, not all men. We are supposed to be more naturally leaner. Where our bodies are built different compared to a woman. That's what the thing is that this is dangerous for some women when they get involved in this sport. You change aspects of your body, especially if you are misdraining or if you want to have children, and then because of the extreme of it, not just the steroids, but also, the other stuff that's involved in it can really affect you. So you got to ask yourself, is the risk worth the reward? Is it worth it? The sacrifice you got to put in, the time you got to put in, and end up at the end of the day, you don't have nothing. You're living day by day, check by check, if you do make any money out of it. And just, it's always going to be that debate. Is the risk worth the reward? If you choose to get to Olympia, that's great. After that, some ladies I know went to Olympia one time, that was it. Um, some ladies keep competing because they enjoy competing. You got here, my man. He says, "Give me some time. I will come on." Okay, I got you, brother. That's why I'm dragging a little bit. He says this. He says, and I muscle worship a bit. Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, yeah. I think one thing, there are guys who do find these women appealing, men and women. There is a kind of a subsection of muscle worship in bodybuilding, because it's just something different, and it's just extreme. It's an extreme sport, and the time, the work you put into it, we're fond of it. Like I said, I'm fond of ladies. Yes, I often, somebody used to say like this. I say, we ladies rock hard, we're rock hard, but we don't want you to risk your life just because of us. And I know it's not because of us, because you are a competitor, because you're in the sport to prove yourself, to take the time to grow, develop, to put in the work and understand the factors that's involved in bodybuilding. Like I said, bodybuilding is very extreme, but I would say, ask yourself: is the risk worth the reward? Is that opportunity to turn pro? Is it worth the diets, the sometimes the pain, the crampiness, the sometimes the trying to stretch a dollar, you know, because I talked to ladies say, hey, one lady I talked to said she would love to do some more shows to get a pro card, but it's an expense for her. It's like going to one show, you gotta pay like maybe over $1,000, just more than $1,000 just to travel, and then pay your sanctioning fees and your this and your interest fees and all that. It's but they're determined. If this was way, it was a way where they can, do pretty good, where they can have the money and the funds, where also they can have things to help them. Like, as you remember, one thing we talked about, that most companies will not give you, health insurance knowing that you're a bodybuilder. You don't give you life insurance knowing you're a body. They will give it to you if you're a major league athlete playing either football, baseball, you're playing in the NFL, NBA. You can get those things because your sport is a big money sport, and they can make money off of it. Bodybuilding is not as big money compared to the others. Even some track stars and gymnasts can get insurance and benefits because their sport, even though it can be hazardous. There's stories of gymnasts who have hurt themselves. Like, remember when some was that one girl, Carrie Shrugs, when she twisted her ankle. A couple of times we have girls. That one, there's an old clip of a guy running. He hits the hobby horse dead on, straight in the chest. You know, there's been stories of even cheerleaders practicing falling. There's one girl, she was a cheerleader. She fell. She broke her neck. She was in a brace for like a year or more before she really got back to getting back in cheerleading again. It's like any athlete. You often have to ask yourself, is the risk worth the reward? And if you say to yourself, yeah, it's worth it. But for us who are on the outside, we might not think it's worth it. But you got to think about it. Most everyday person has never been a real athlete, other than maybe a handful of people. If you're the lucky few who gets the opportunity to get picked up by like a big organization like the NFL, or get to go to Olympia, or you know all that takes you to get to that next level. If you get there, it's a great opportunity. if you sit back and think about the sacrifices you made, you know, sometimes the times you spent more time at home or training and practicing, you couldn't really enjoy life like everybody else, like going out and doing this. That's what I talk to some ladies in bodybuilding. Like sometimes they go into this little world, especially when you're prepping. You know, the thing with her, she was prepping, but I would say where the circumstance I heard, she might have maybe should have just waited a little bit. You know, I understand going to a big opportunity like to the Arnold, you look presentable, you want to everybody see you, see how you look, but at the same time, these people are not going to be there when you're on stage and when you get sick. You know, people like your mama and your sister would be. They'll be the ones who have to pick you up. Your friends have to pick you up. Sometimes some people are not really your friends. Some people in life are just hanger-ons. They're just there for the ride. Then when things don't go the way they go, then they want to duck out. But Jody, I think, had a lot of potential, and all competitors, even Alina Havani, she had potential. You know, all these athletes who have passed, and I've told you, I've been told that it's been a good number. You know, I think good number, especially in the you got to think with the NPC level because there's so much more amateurs than pros. You know, I think somebody told me like either with numbers, I think the numbers are like at least over 200 competitors who have died because of dehydration or some kind of other element, especially prepping, and nearly almost half of them were I would think about I would say about 80, 90 of them out of that 200 some competitors were IFBB level competitors. You know, and you got to think about it. Not all the pros are going to have success in the sport of bodybuilding. I remember many of you, Miss Janet Bloodworth. She got out of the sport because she didn't like the way it was going. She knew that she couldn't be as big as the girls in physique, and she didn't want to go back to figure. And like I said, she's a much older lady. And that's one thing is, you say again, here's one lady who was 46 that died, and this girl who was 20 years old that died. You know, that's the thing they were talking about because Elena Havana was 46 when she died. She would have been 50 around this year because she died. Yeah, I think she would have been 50. She would have been in 50s this year. But this is just how death works. It doesn't discriminate against age, color, background. It happens. It's sudden. But it kind of like we just just saw a few singers passed away. Um, the late Dwayne Wiggins. He died. He was dealing with difficulties with cancer. Oh, here we had here. He wasn't here yesterday, but he's here today. My man, Big Keith Williams.
What up?
Hey, this is the man who really gives me knowledge. He is my soothsayer. I really appreciate that. And I also want to say happy birthday to my little nephew Keaton.
Yeah.
I thank you for the picture. I should have posted it, but I forgot to. But I
No,
appreciate it.
we're trying to
Yeah.
teach him how to drive this bluey truck right now. Keaton, come down here. Ah, damn, got him outside trying to drive his bluey truck. He's not a very good driver. Graduated when he
uh,
was 16 for a while. Another 12 years. I got to get him ready.
yeah, get him right at young, as Tom Hanks said in
Exactly.
the movie Green
Keaton,
Mile.
come here.
But anyway, brother, you've been a competitor for a long time, and you've seen how people really risk their life to try to either get to the pro card or either try to get to the Olympia.
Yeah. I've watched three of my friends pass away in this sport. Cedric being one of my really good friends. Sean being another one of my good friends. Actually, four guys. Dallas, who was a really good friend of mine, and George. So people have to understand when it comes to the sport, it's the risk versus the reward. And I'm at the tail end of my career. So I can say that is my health and my livelihood worth competing anymore, and it's just not. And this will be my final year competing. To be honest, I won't after this year. I know my body has run its course, and I know I've done things to, you know, keep Humpty Dumpty together. But I've made my money in other sports, and something that I don't make as much money in. So it's I mean, the fallacy of all these people wanting to get chase after these pro cards. I mean, and and at the end of the day, I'm tired of paying to play. You know, so that's what it boils down to. It's me paying to play. Like when I was in NFL, yeah, I pay union dues, and I get a pension. Track, same thing. But I didn't have to pay to run track. I didn't have to play football. I have to play bodybuilding. And I'm like, what part of this is not making sense to me anymore? Because they only pay out the top five at the Olympia, maybe top 10 at the Arnold, top 10. But other than that, you're not making money. Not unless you got good sponsors, which I do, and things like that. You're not making money. My training business is good because that's my little side hustle, or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, not a lot of people in this sport. And if you do the percentage of actual people in this sport who actually make money, it's not very many, less than 10%, probably 10%. And when
Mm-hmm.
you look at the money for men versus women, it's even worse. So at the end of the day, and we've been talking about that for years now. So and that's it. And I'm not gonna say it's just in bodybuilding, it's in basketball, it's in soccer, it's in I mean, soccer finally renegotiated their contract for the women who make just as much money as the men, which I agree. But again, at the end of the day, it's the evolution of man versus woman in the sports and whatever. But again, this sport that we're talking about, bodybuilding in general, is a high risk sport. You know, a very high risk sport. Of injuries. Not having insurance, and I think few weeks ago we talked about Helena and and her having to do GoFundmes or whatever case may be, and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, I have to look in the mirror and says, is this worth it anymore? Am I having fun? And as a Masters competitor, more than an Open competitor, because I do both, I am paying to play. I am paying myself. So if I win a show, part of that money that I paid to do a master class, I'm just paying back myself for what I put in the pot. So again, at the end of the day, is it really worth it? No. I've not done one sport besides this. When I bowl, you pay entry fee. Yeah, but you win money if you do well. You know, this is a sport where you pay 275 plus hotel, travel, trainer, food. It's very expensive, and people don't understand that. It's very expensive to do this shit. And at the end of the day, some people, are ready to, rob Peter to pay Paul. And I'm just, and as well to do as I am, I'm just tired of it, And I'm not, and if I'm not making money, and I tell people all the time, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. At the end of the day, so
And that's true about
yeah,
this because it's you're pretty much risking your body for, if you're lucky enough, for a pro card. If you're lucky enough, maybe a few $1,000s, in an Olympic qualification.
yeah,
And then when all said and done, when you leave the sport, then sometimes you have health risks because how, like we talked about, how you look at Ronnie Coleman, you look at Flex Wheeler, we talked about Helena, that was a while back, you know. But I think the worst thing to
yeah,
do is to lose your life for bodybuilding. I would think, and I think
yeah,
one thing, it should be more education. If, like I said, there was like this past weekend, they had a seminar, for posing. So why not have a health awareness seminar where you bring in the athletes, you
because then
bring
you make
in,
people think of the risks that they're taking, and they don't want to. Then here's the thing. Then that's the reality, and that makes people think, George. I mean, when you're looking at all these young athletes, and athletes sitting there like, oh, I want a pro card, I want a pro card. Masters are open. They don't. They may or may not know. And I think for the most part, my grandmother said, if you ain't got common sense, you're screwed. But you're not going to talk about that at a seminar. Why would you talk about that? You're really alienating yourself, your sport, by sitting here saying it's like concussions. The numbers went down in the youth football and high school football because of concussions. So if you, but what did the NFL do? They counter and said, okay, What did they create? Flag football. So the kids that didn't want to play contact football, and flag football is now going to be an Olympic sport, is blowing up. And boys and girls can do it of all ages, of all creeds, and everything else is blowing up. The IFBB doesn't have a contingency plan like the NFL. The NFL, it's like NASA. They got somebody thinking shit up and somebody else thinking shit up and somebody else thinking shit up. In order to make it culpable for people still to want to participate in football in one facet or another. So okay, we created fit model. What does that do? It doesn't do a damn thing. At the end of the day, it's like, we're not gonna, or you think that they're gonna actually say, hey, doing this sport, you have a chance of having a heart attack. Doing this sport, you have a chance of doing this. Doing this sport, you have absolutely not. Because then people are like, man, I'm paying all this money, but my health and all this stuff, and I barely have health insurance. I barely eat and all this stuff. They're not gonna do that because that's reality. For somebody like me who's been around and seen it, somebody like you who's been around and seen it, we understand what the reality is. But for most of these people, like Dallas was amazing, dude, and and he left the sport way too soon. In my opinion, was pushed way too hard. And let's be honest, we're all grown ass adults. We can make decisions. But when you have people in your ear saying, "Yeah, you could be the next Mr. Olympia. You may be the next Mr. Olympia," blah 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 blah, this that, and the other, you are just dead ass focused on one thing. Look at Nick Walker. I mean, look what he's done to his body. It's like blown out. I'm like, it's like, dude, with the guys that are coming up in the sport, no offense and all, there's like, and think about Big Ramy. I said this, and I love Big Ramy. I competed against him one time at the New York Pro, and I was like, this dude and a couple other guys are going to end up dead soon if they don't fucking back off. Because if they were just, I mean, you can see it. Guess what? He's not competing anymore. Hasn't said why he's not competing anymore, but I'm sure there's health problems involved in why he's not competing anymore. I think it's just a matter of time for somebody like Nick Walker to be the same way, because you see these guys. I remember competing in Nick in the Chicago Pro via Atlanta, and he was unbelievable, great shape. I think he was fifth that show. It was his first pro show. Unbelievable. And now he's just so big and varicose veins and all this stuff. I'm like, do you know how much stress that puts on your heart? I know, because I did the Tampa Pro and almost collapsed on stage, and found out I had an enlarged heart, and that was via all the sports I did, track, football, and all this other stuff. And your heart grows and shrinks and grows. And I couldn't do anything for about almost 6 months, like no pre-workout, no working out, no nothing. That's why I took up bowling, because I had to find something to do besides competing in bodybuilding. And Dorian Yates said it best. There's if you ever go to his IG, he said best. He was riding on a horse. He says there's life after bodybuilding for all of us. We just have to pick and choose what we want to do. And some people can live with it, and some people can live without it. And the only reason why myself, because I can sound hypocritical by saying this, like I say this, but yeah, I said when I got my car accident 2 years ago, I was on bed rest, and I was going to retire then. But then I said I felt I still had something left in the tank, and I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and chase and go after these young guys. I'm going to compete in a master class. But then as I sit back and think about it, and I go to these shows and I do these master shows, you know, master pros get treated like second class citizens compared to open competitors. And it's crazy. Like I told you guys, when I went to Legion show, got the jacket, got the nice bag, got all this stuff, got the tickets to the show. When I was a master, I got a bag, that's it. We didn't get tickets. I said, so I'm an open pro and I'm a master pro. What's the difference? We both pay 275, right? We're both paying $275. But they get the jacket, I don't, or the sweatsuit that we got, and it was great. Chris Mims ran a great show. But then the next day when I went to the show and I'm like, hey, tickets for, my family, this, that, and another, like, oh, that's just for the open, not for the masters. Wait a minute. Not only did I pay for, I know when you do the open, there's no entry fee. So I paid, I don't know, it was 150, $200 for the masters. So not only did I pay 275 for my pro card, but I paid $200 to do the master's class to only be not treated as a IFBB pro, but an IFBB masters, which is bullshit. And that's if you look at any of these shows, and it'd be interesting to get a take from like Tim Gardner or somebody, like, why does masters get charged but open doesn't? Why do we all pay 275, but the open guys don't pay nothing to enter a show? But I mean, it's the sport. I mean, think about it. It's like going to the any master show, any other master show. They don't pay, and so I just don't understand. I just don't understand the whole logic of it. So it's one of those things where like as a master, you're taking more of a risk because clearly you're older. You're 40, 35, or 35 to older, 35 and over. So you're taking it's more risk, held more health history issues, this and that and other. So why am I taking these risks? The risk versus the reward to me is just not worth it. So I'll ride it out this year, see what happens. Then I'm pretty much done. It's just like if you ever watched that Rocky movie, the last Rocky, when he fought Tolver, and he said he looked at Paulie at the end. He says, I think the lion's gone now, or something's gone. He's like, I think the lion's gone. He had that last fight, and he says, I think it's out of me now. I can move on with my life, and that's what he did. And sometimes people not really to accept that reality, but I am. I know my body. Every day I get up, moves a little bit slower. I still train hard, still lift hard, still in great shape for 51. But man, let me tell you, it's the shit's real when you see me. It's real. The backache, the aches and the pains. And Michaela said the best. At some point in time, you just got to know when to hang it up. And that's about. I mean, and I'm sure somebody like her, she can go in a master's class and destroy people. I don't even know how old she is, but
I
again,
think she's 33, I believe.
so she got a couple years.
Yeah, she got a few more years. She's not
Yeah,
even
she got a
40
few
yet.
more years. But again, she did well in the open class. And I've seen people like Sean and not Sean, but Kevin and Flex come back, and they're like, man, again, I'm looking at these young guys at 51, and I'm at being at 51 and competing against these 30-something-year-old guys. It's just no way. I mean, you can and I can, but it's like all this shit as a open IFBB pro and an IFBB pro, it's a lot that goes into the supplements and everything else that goes into the body that it takes its toll on you, and especially when you've been doing it for years. So, again, if is the NPC or the IFBB ever going to sit here and say, well, getting into the sport, the risk is this? Absolutely not. You have some guys now in the NFL at the age of 25, 26, 27 who are retiring from football because they understand, getting hitting in the melon and not feeling the same. And I understand. I retired from the NFL because of concussions. Fifth concussion, I was done. My memory wasn't right. My balance wasn't right. The early signs of Parkinson's and all the early issues you get. And I was done. And I walked away from it happy because I walked away on my own recognizance, understanding the repercussions of the end game after I retire. It's just like, me watching Ronnie Coleman on Instagram today. And I'm like, the biggest, best bodybuilder to ever grace the face of the planet, and to watch how fragile he is now. Not saying his mind's not there, but I mean, I can't, I mean, maybe he's different, but I can't imagine, crawling on stage and not being able to walk and squatting 500 pounds and leg pressing 2,300 pounds and being like that. And I have some of those issues, so I can speak on it. Just got my third shots and my last U-flex shots in my knees. Got my back ablation a few weeks ago. Just trying to stay together for one more year, and then I'm done because it's just like, it's just not worth it for me. I'd rather just go in the gym, work out, look good. Just don't want to have a dad bod. Go go hang out with my kids. Be sitting outside of my house right now while my sons and at my other house doing some crap and watching them play and have fun and enjoy watch Tina compete. I'll watch her compete. And because she's still young and got a lot in the tank, never had really any significant injuries. I don't think she's had any injuries, and just watch her compete. I'll live vicariously through her.
Yeah, yeah, we got here a man, KL the Wonder. He's popped in here, brother.
Hey,
Welcome, welcome,
what's up,
That
welcome.
guys?
beard,
How
every
y'all
time I see
doing?
you, get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it be like that. I wish I could have your face. A bit without the beard, but
It's getting the time for me to shave this off because now it's getting warmer now.
It's looking a little fuzzy.
Yeah, see, it's just that I'm like this. When it gets colder, I don't want to. It's let my hair grow out because I don't want to be wearing a cap all day and But now I'm taking showers. I start seeing my hair fall out bit by bit, and just so it's about that time to go get a share. I'll probably get one next week. But welcome, brother, and thank you for coming through.
All right.
Yeah, and as we talk about this again, yeah, we know the NPC and IP not gonna say nothing, but someone got to do something. You having trainers who are still using practices and protocols of like 50, 60 years old. The same stuff that worked back in the day of Arnold and them. But look what happened to those guys. I mean, Arnold had at least two valve surgeries in the past almost 20 years. You look at guys now, you talk about Ronnie, and look at the other guys. You know, there should be education is important to any, and I know they don't want to shake any trees, don't want to scare any athletes, but his thing is, you if there's more people dying because they're taking diuretics and they're supposed to take diuretics, if they're having issues, they have like some kind of significant medical issue. Where I was talking about earlier, the lady who died in 4 years ago, she it took an hour for the ambulance to come. Why not have, as I said before, have someone on call when this shit happens backstage? It's one thing, this girl, she died in probably her room or someplace, but when you're at the shows and you're not feeling well, there should be those things put in, those protocols for safety.
Well, I will say this, not to cut you off. I will say this. When I found out my heart issue, Dave Kelly, who is no longer with us, who was my trainer who turned me pro, and he wasn't my trainer at the show. When I almost collapsed on stage, because I remember Dexter looking at me and saying, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah," and I thought it was fine, and I was kind of wobbling around a little bit. And then the one thing I will say is that when I went off stage, they had EMTs backstage, and they put a heart monitor on me, all kinds of stuff. They gave me some electrolytes, and all. Even then, I didn't want to drink it because retaining water and all that stuff. And Tim Garner came back and checked on me. Now I can say that that like they at a lot of these shows they do have EMTs now around and things like that. But again, are athletes necessarily going to disclose what they're doing or what they use when trying to compete or train? No, they're not, because it's taboo, and it's not necessarily promoters like looking down on it. It's the general public looking down on it. And I remember, God, I can't remember his name. He's a judge, doctor, and he said, "I'm embarrassed of my profession because they judge us as bodybuilders, who are trying to make a living off of what we do. Basically, instead of basically saying, you know what, okay, you're going to do this. Let's make it, because I get my blood work done twice a year. We're going to do this. We're going to monitor this." They're just so quick to judge you, and based off the understanding that I'm a grown ass adult. I'm gonna do what I want anyway. So at the end of the day, whether you say it's good, bad, or indifferent for me, I'm gonna do it. So he was saying basically that he's embarrassed because athletes can't just go to their doctors and tell their doctors, "This is what I'm doing," because the doctor's quick to judge you and be like, "Well, that's bad for you." This, I said, here's the thing: if you do the research, they give steroids to AIDS patients. They give growth hormones to kids with dwarfism. They give drugs. I mean, there's so many drugs on the face of the earth that can kill us besides goddamn steroids. But yet, that's a taboo, but everything isn't, because the pharmaceutical companies are making all this money. Like, I was just, where was I at the doctor's? And they're talking about how, like, these pharmaceutical companies come in and wine and dine the shit out of these doctors to push these drugs on their patients. I mean, think about how many of us in the world on all these medications these days. And I just listened to Dana White talk about his doctor had him on this and had him on that and had him on this and had him on that. He says, I went off all that shit and I forgot what he said he took, but he's the healthiest he's ever been in his life, because doctors don't have a solution. Their solution is take this pill. They're not there to understand why we do what we do. And this doctor, and I can't remember his name, I gotta look him up, was saying this about when COVID hit, and I think it was when Cedric died. Because he was like, I'm embarrassed that these athletes can't go to their doctors and just be honest. And it's sad. I have a great doctor, so we have a great understanding. But a lot of these doctors, a lot of these athletes can't go to their doctors and be like, look, I'm doing tests, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, blah, 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 this, that, and other. They can't do it because the doctors are so quick to judge. And so, I'm like, yeah, but yeah, that shit that you gave me the hydrocodone that you gave me is addictive too. That that Vicodin that you gave me is addictive too. That Oxy is addictive too. But they won't say that shit. They'll give it to you, like drinking water. What's the difference? That shit's addictive. There's people I know somebody personally who
Oh, wait. Here he goes. Give me a second. We just lost my big brother for a minute. Should be back. But yeah, because one thing what doctors do, some doctors would be kind of like, you shouldn't be doing that. But this is where, as a doctor, as a physician, your thing should be saying, okay, good, let me know that. We'll go over this and go on that. Don't be judging your patients. I think it's mostly, I think, with some doctors that because they have the education, they understand factors of the body, whatever. But here, the thing is, you shouldn't be so judging of this person, especially a bodybuilder. When you have a patient come into you and say, "Hey, I got this problem," you say, "Okay, what's what we need to do? Talk it over. Really see what the problem is. Be not as judgmental about what these people are doing. Be more kind of simple. I won't say sympathetic, but be more understanding." And then I think one thing some doctors have to, just like a nurse, they have to recertify themselves. They have to recertify every year because if you don't know the new medications, the new procedures, and all that's going on in medicine, then eventually it's no good for you to be a doctor. They tell you, hey, you can't work because I'm watching a show with one lady. She worked as a midwife. And she had to keep up with all things that's all the new stuff that's going on in that part of her profession.
I wanted to ask him like on during his shows, have you ever got paid? Like, did he ever got earn some money?
But
Like,
here you go. You can ask me when we come back. Here you go. Kay, I
I
got
don't
a
know what
question to
happened.
ask you.
What'd you
That's all
say?
right. Kay, I got a question to ask you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask like during your competitive like your shows, have you ever got paid like some money?
For competing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've made a lot of money competing. I wouldn't be competing if I
Oh.
didn't.
No, I was just asking because
No, no, I've made a lot of money competing. I've been won the grand prize, but I've made, I wouldn't be doing. You always tell people if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And I'm not just competing just to show up and get a trophy or. I remember my son once told me when I was guest posting at a show, he was like, "Dad, why didn't you get a trophy?" I said, and I showed him the check for $5,000. He goes, "Oh," I said, "this is much better than a trophy."
Well, you got to think about a little boy like see his daddy with a trophy. Like, I'm
Yeah,
proud of you, Dad.
And
That
that
was
was when
nice.
Cody, Cody's 21 now, and that's when he was younger. He's like, "Well, where's the trophy?" I'm like, "We can buy a lot more things with this check than that trophy." And he's like, "Oh, okay."
I
So,
understand.
but there's a lot of people, KL, you're right. There's a lot of people who compete that don't make money. I mean, they don't. I mean, I have a good sponsor. I have good backing and support. And I also didn't go into this sport. Um, I didn't go into this sport broke. This is a poor man's sport. So I had, some cheese before I got into it, and so and over the years as an amateur, I was even paid, by Muscular Development, Flex Magazine, you know, Muscle Tech. So I always had sponsors of some sort, because I was always a marketable guy, and very well spoken. So they take care of you, But but the upper echelons, I was telling George earlier, there's only probably about 5% of bodybuilders who actually like top bodybuilders who actually make money in the sport, really.
Oh, you go. Bring back brothers back in. I just showed this picture. I pulled it up. Give me a second.
Oh, is she the one that passed away?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the thing is, people understand, like Tim, like I was telling earlier, Tim and those guys, they have EMTs and guys backstage checking on these athletes. But George, I mean, think about it. Remember when George died? He was in his hotel room. His trainer came back and he was dead. I was in Orlando that weekend. It was crazy. So it's one of those things where Cedric died. He was having stomach issues, not being able to hold things down. Sean died. At the and this is what I told somebody the other day, and I honestly said this. I said I am one of the fortunate ones to walk away from the Legion show with all the health issues I had and still be alive because both of those guys died after that show, after the Legion show. How crazy is that? They both died after that Legion show. Sean, remember, got suspended for that whole allegation of rape charges, which was bullshit. And then he came back, and remember he was a former Mr. Olympia, and then they took his title away and suspended him because the girl said that he raped her in the room, which was complete bullshit. And then Cedric died before he did, and Dallas died before he did. And remember, Dallas almost collapsed on stage in Australia at the Australia Pro, and everybody wanted to put it on Chad Nichols. And Chad Nichols had basically told Dallas he needs to go home and get healthy. And Sean Ray and all these people wanted to put him on blast, saying that, it was Chad. And it wasn't Chad. At the end of the day, I have a choice as a bodybuilder. Melanie can tell me to do X, Y, and Z. I have a choice to say, oh, I accept that, or I'm not going to do that. And there's some things that I haven't. When I was an amateur, people were like, "Oh, I'm a diabetic now, but I wasn't then." They're like, "Oh, using insulin, puts carbs in the muscles and all that shit." I'm like, "I'm good," because I remember Flex telling me once before. A doctor said, I can't save you from two things: insulin shock and your cramp heart of diuretics." And I was like, "Okay, that's all I need to know." So we have choices. We're all adults. We have choices in what we do. Nobody can make me take a pill, take a shot, do anything I don't want to do. And at the end of the day, what that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I think with young competitors, they're a lot more impressible because you might have a coach that might be pushing certain unhealthy protocols, and that's the thing is that's why some of these coaches are not really up to date what's going on. There's I like anything. There should be a little bit more education, most definitely when you are a coach or a trainer, and same thing with the athletes. Like when Elena died, she was a one of Shelby Starnes clients, and everybody was on Shelby
Well, there you
Starnes'
go.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
and everybody, you got point like remember the name where you not speak. She went on this whole doing these podcasts and live streams, yah yah yah. But then again, she was also one of his clients, and what somebody told me was she wasn't following the protocols that he set for her because and sometimes some of these athletes will go outside of the protocol because they're like, let me try something, maybe give me that little extra edge. Like they'll take a diuretic because especially if they want to do a show and they want to come in a little more drier and conditioned. This girl, she wasn't even competing. She was just hanging out at the Honor Classic because I think a friend of her friends were there to support some people there or whatever. But they should, like I said again, they should be more of these people pointing out these coaches or trainers who are using bad methods. And then if you influence or grooming the next athlete, and that athlete gets sick or get hurt or something like that, then if it's your fault, yeah, it's your fault. But if it's not, and it's the athlete's fault, then this is where, okay, let's figure out what's the problem, why this keeps happening. Let's try to find a solution. Maybe it's hard to turn a lot of people's mind because a lot of people don't want to put themselves out there, put their business out there. They want to feel like, hey, I'm that one person that, I don't want to, no, I'm not going to try to do that because I don't have the courage for it. But it takes that person. And we're not going to get it from the Manions. We're not going to get it from any of the promoters. No, because as long as they make their money, they don't care. But the thing is, I keep saying this: no one come see Jim Mannion or Tyler Man in the shows. No one comes to see, Sadie Williamson or Steve Weinberger. No one comes to see Bob Ciccarello or anybody of those announcers. We come to see y'all. And if anything, this is your sport, and you should fight for it just as much as anything. You want to compete and get on the stage. You just don't take. Hey, it's my little boy, Katie.
Say hi. You got a flower. Easy. I'm not
Oh,
gonna talk.
so sweet.